Hey, hi everyone, this is Mukesh Otwani once again from learn-automation.com. This is part 4 of the framework series, and today in this video we are going to talk about how we can create data provider and libraries for our framework. Okay, so let's quickly see what exactly we are going to cover in this video. In this video we will talk about how to create Excel data provider, how to create config data provider, how to create custom libraries in our framework, and how we can enhance our base class for more functionality. Now if you have gone through my previous videos, then in our previous video we have created this script, right? And we also created this base class which has very basic functionality, which simply start the browser, close the browser. So today we are going to enhance this, and we are going to create couple of libraries as well. Now do not get confused with the data provider which I have written here with the data provider which TestNG provide. TestNG data provider, it's a separate class altogether which will help you to create data driven framework. I am just giving a name data provider because this library will provide the data by reading certain Excel configuration or some sort of database. Okay, so this database, or sorry, this data provider name I have given because it fulfilled its purpose, so it will simply read the data. But you can also give this name as Excel reading file, config reading file, that's all. Okay, so do not get confused with the data provider class which comes along with TestNG. So let me quickly show you the meaning of this plus why we need this. Now if you talk about our base class, we are taking this browser and this URL directly hard coded, right? Now if you want to take this kind of configuration from a configuration file, then we have to take help of properties class in Java. We don't have configuration file, okay, in Java, so we do the same thing via properties class. Property class itself will solve our purpose because properties class also works in the key value mapping pair. So what we'll do, we'll create two key value pairs. Okay, one key will be for browser and one key will be for the URL. Now you can also have multi URLs. Okay, one can be for staging, one can be for production, one for the UAT. So you can have multiple key values pair. For this example, for this framework, I will be taking two key value pairs. And now if you go back to our test case, this is our data which we are again hard coded. Okay, and as we know, the nature of test data, it keeps on changing, right? For different environment, for different sprint, for different user, it will change. So we should ideally keep this also in a separate file. So let's quickly create our file, then we'll write the code. So this is the config folder which we created in our second video. So what I am going to do, I am going to create a new file called config.properties. Guys, this is the extension, you cannot change. .properties should be your extension. Now we already have discussed this, how to read the configuration file, how to read the Excel file. So we already discussed this in our previous video. So if you have not gone through with that videos, I will put the link in the description. You can go ahead and watch that video first, and then you can come to this framework. Anyway, I will show you, or I will repeat the steps again, but if you want in-depth tutorials, then we have a separate video. Okay, so for this I will keep browser, and browser as of now I will say Chrome, and let me give this name as staging or test URL or QA environment or QA URL. Now you can also have UAT, okay, UAT URL or prod URL, it can be anything, depends on how many landscape you have, how many environments you have, right? So it will keep on changing. For the time being, let me stick to 3 URLs. So I will go back to again test case, and I will take browser we have taken, and let me take this QA URL. Okay, for the time being I will just keep them blank because anyways we are not reading, or we can remove them. Similar way we can go to the test data, and here actually we have to create one Excel sheet which will actually help us to pass the data to our framework. So I'm going to create a new worksheet, and this I will give as data, or you can give test data. Here you can say we have multiple sheets, so I will give this as a login, and here I will keep the login. So login information I will pass here. Login username is selenium_50 and password will be abcd_1234556. Okay, and I'm gonna save this Excel, and as of now let's read the username password, and later on we will also read a couple of more details. Once we log into the application, we'll create contacts, accounts, then we'll read some more data. So now we are done. We have created our environment, which is nothing but the properties file, which is nothing but configuration file. In a similar way, we also have created our test data, where we have just username and password. Now let's create library for them. So in the utility, in the last class we already discussed how to create a browser factory, which is simply dealing with the browsers part. Now let's create an Excel data provider. As the name says, it will try to read the data from Excel and will provide us the data. So I'm going to create one constructor here, public Excel data provider. Now what exactly this constructor will do, it will simply load the Excel. As soon as we create object of this class, it will simply load the Excel. So we don't have to pass, or we don't have to provide the Excel path again and again. Now before we start, let's quickly check, do we have dependency for Apache POI? Because in order to work with Excel, we need third-party library called Apache POI. So as of now we have Selenium, we have TestNG, and we also have extend report. So we need Apache POI dependency as well. So I will go ahead and download Apache POI dependencies, or I will simply copy paste in my pom.xml. So search for Apache POI and open first two links, which is POI and POI_XML. Only these two dependencies are enough. You don't have to go through all the dependencies. These first two dependencies are enough. Now important note here, now if you are going to the version 4, then they have deprecated couple of libraries, so few libraries will not work, they have added new. Okay, same goes with this as well. So in order to stick with the old code, I will go ahead and use 3.17 because you can see it is highly stable. Okay, so I will go ahead 3.17, copy this, go back to our pom.xml and paste here. Similarly, I will go ahead and download 3.17 for this as well, and that's all. If you don't need this comment, you can remove. This comes by default when we do this copy paste from mvnrepository.com, and you can also press Ctrl Shift F if you want to format your XML. So you can see it looks clean now. So now we can start using Apache POI as well. Now if you have gone through the previous video, then it will be very easy because same steps we are going to repeat here, but in a more efficient way. So what we do, first step we always do file, right? So file src equal to new file, and we provide the path. Now path, it is already in my home directory, so I am going to put dot slash. Now we have to provide the folder name, which is nothing but test data as of now, and Excel name is data.xlsx. Then second step, we need file input stream, where it will convert this file into a raw data, and we will provide the source as well. Now it is throwing some exception, so we will take care of this. In order to read XLSX, we need one class called XSSF workbook. So we are going to create object of that particular class, and we will provide the file input stream object. Now this WB object we need across this class outside this method. So what we are going to do, we are going to make this variable as global variable so that we can access outside this method as well. Now these two classes, file input stream and XSSF workbook, is throwing some checked exception. Okay, so you can see this is throwing file not found exception, so we have to handle it. Similar way, these XSSF workbook also throwing IO exception. So to avoid this, I am going to surround these two classes with TryCatch, and you can see these two exception came. So I am going to have only one exception block which will take care of both the exception. So I am going to use exception based class. Now again, if you are completely new to what is exception, how to handle exception, I have dedicated 2 videos on exception handling which I have already uploaded on my YouTube channel, so you can watch them as well. Now in the catch block, we will give a very meaningful message that unable to read Excel file, and I can print the exception log as well. So I can say e dot get message. So this constructor is done. So this constructor will get called automatically as soon as you create the object. So that is our main intention, that we don't have to load the file every time. As soon as we create object, this constructor will be called and it will load my file. Now we need the actual methods which will help us to read the data. So let's create few methods. One method which I will create called get string data. Okay, one more method I will create called public void get numeric data. For the timing, only 2 are enough. Once we enhance our framework, we'll also add couple of more libraries. Okay, so these 2 methods are enough. Now we are going to use this WB object. This WB object is workbook object. Now in order to read the data, first we have to navigate to sheet, right? Which sheet we want to read. Then we can also use get row, which row we want. Let's say as of now 0. Which column we want, so we'll say get cell. As of now let's say 0, and get a string cell value. So this will return you data in a form of a string. So we can directly return the data from here, which can be used in our test case. So this method, okay, this particular statement will return you the data. That data we will return. So we have a return keyword, and return type we have changed to string because we are returning string data. Now what parameters we want? We want sheet name, which sheet we want to read. So in our case, we are going to read login sheet. So this is called sheet name. So sheet name 2, 3, we are going to read sheet number, sheet name login. So we'll pass this at runtime, okay, directly from the library or from the test case. Then which row and which column. So this is actually will keep on changing based on your data. It will read the respective row and column, and it will return you the string cell value. Let's quickly override them. So whatever sheet name you will pass, it will come here. Whatever row name you have passed, it will come here. Whatever column name you will pass, it will come here. One library is done, which is get string data. Same thing we can do for numeric data as well. Okay, so this is sheet name, row, column, and this is exactly what we have to do. The only thing is we don't have to say get string cell value, we will say get numeric cell value. Now what exactly this numeric cell value will return? This will return you a double. So you cannot store or return as a void, it should be double. Okay, in case if you want integer, you can typecast into integer and then you can send. Okay, now right now what we are doing, we are passing the sheet name, right? Now if you don't want to pass the sheet name but you want to provide the sheet index, then we also have a method called get sheet at. Okay, so if you just go to Apache POI, we already have a method called get sheet at, where if you pass the sheet index, it will check the sheet index 0, 1, 2, 3, and based on the indexing it will read. Now if you notice this thing, this is called method overloading, where method name is same, number of parameter is same, but type of the parameter has changed. Integer, 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 string, integer, integer. So you can see this is called method overloading. And the similar thing we are going to do for multiple libraries. So you are definitely going to get this kind of questions that can you tell me where you have used method overloading in your framework. So this is one example. Similar way we will create many methods where you will see we are doing method overloading as well. So in our previous video we discussed how we did abstraction. Here we are discussing how we did method overloading. In a similar way you can see how we use constructor in our framework. In future videos you will see some more concepts that you can expect in interviews as well. Now let's quickly see whether this part is working or not. Now I have one bonus point for you. Let's see this first, and then we'll go to config part and I will tell you what exactly is missing in this framework. Okay, that is optional but it is good to have. So I will go back to my test case. Now this is a separate class, right? Now if I want to use this method, okay, I have to create object of this class definitely. So I can create either in the base class or in the test case. So let me create now in this test case, then we'll tell you what is the best practice to follow. So as of now I will create object of Excel data provider. As soon as you create object, Excel sheet will be loaded and your test data will be ready, and then I will say Excel dot get string data, sheet name as I said login, first row first column. Now this particular method is going to return me the username. So what I will do, I will simply paste here. Okay, and this method, which is same row but different column, I'm going to pass here. Okay, you can still do the same thing in your base class and you can access the Excel object because you're extending the base class. So let's see one by one. Now if I run the XML file, it should run and it should log into my application. Because functionality wise we are not changing anything, it is just we are changing approach. Now it is not hard coded, it is coming from Excel. Okay, and it worked. Once the login is done successfully, it will close the browser and execute it. Okay, now if you want to keep this in base class, that is also acceptable. You can also create another setup suite. Okay, this is another method which I am creating where you can have all kind of object creation which is required for your complete project. Okay, so let's say I'm going to create this here and I want to use it here, sorry, in our okay, now it will ask you to change the visibility. That's fine because here it is default. Let me make it public. Okay, so when you want to run this, now you can keep this in before suite. As soon as your test suite will start, this will set up your Excel data provider, and in your test case you can directly say excel.string cell data, excel.string numeric data, or any other method which you have created. So Excel part is done. One more enhancement is required that we will do. Let me quickly also show you how you can read the configuration file as well. Okay, which is browser and QA URL. For this, let me create one class called config data provider. Now reading configuration file or property file is one of the easiest tasks. Initial two steps will be same which we have done for Excel. Here also I'm going to use constructor because constructor will help us to initialize the variable and objects. So again, file src equal to new file. Okay, path I can give dot, then I have to provide the folder name, then I have to provide file name with extension. So this is done. Next step is file input stream. Guys, this again we have discussed in the videos step by step, so you need to go through that videos as well. And same thing, in order to read the properties file, we have a separate class called properties class. We are going to declare a global variable here, and here we are going to create object new properties. Now we are done. We are loading the configuration file, so we will say pro dot load, and we will load the configuration file. Now again, this will throw you file not found exception, this will throw you IO exception. So I'm going to surround these 3 lines of code with TryCatch, and I'm going to give the same message here. I will keep base class here so that I don't have to handle multiple catch blocks, and in the catch block I will simply say not able to load config file, and then we will print the log message. Now we don't have much methods here, so I'm going to create one method public. Return type will be string because this method will return the data, and let me create one custom or one method which simply takes key and returns the value. So I will say get data from config, and one method which will return me get browser, one method will return me get staging URL or test URL. Now here we already know that we are trying to refer browser, so key is this and value should be this, right? So we will say pro is nothing but the object that we created for properties class, and dot get property, and since the return type is a string, we are going to add a keyword called return. Same thing we are going to do for URL as well. I will say pro dot get property, and what is the key here? Key is QA URL. Now if you have more custom key value pairs, you can create methods like this. As of now we have 2 key value pairs, so I am going to create 2 methods and one more method which will take the key to search, and it will return the same. So we'll say pro dot get property, and whatever key you will pass, it will return you exactly like this. Okay, if you want to test, you can just give any name, let's say first name. I'm going to give my name as Mukesh, so we can test all these 3 methods. Now this configuration file done, config data provider also done. So in the base class, if you wish, again you can just say, see here we just need to pass, right, key value pairs. So again I can say here public config data provider config equal to new config data provider. So as soon as you create object, this will call the constructor, it will call this constructor, your config file will get load, and now you can use this. Now we have to pass here, right, all these configurations were hard coded, so this time I will say config dot get browser, and this time I will say config dot get staging URL. Now your configuration file is separate, Excel file is separate, your test cases or your base class is not hard coded anymore. Everything is now separated. Okay. Now if you want to test, because again test case wise we have not changed anything, just we have changed the approach, but still if you want to check, just right click, run as, and if you want to test it, I will recommend change the browser part so that you will get to know. Let me change this to Firefox, and if you run the test case it should run on the Firefox. Okay, now you can see something went wrong. Okay, that's good. What exactly it is searching for? It is searching for Gecko driver. It means the path which we have given, okay, you can see here we missed this part. Same thing I will do for I as well. Now let's run it again. And you can see just we have changed the configuration file and it is getting affected. And as usual your test will run and it will complete, right? So that is the power of config data provider and Excel data provider. Now if you don't want to create object again and again, okay, like it is anyways once, but still if you wish that at runtime you should be able to call, or directly you are able to call these methods like data provider factory dot get browser, something like that, then again we can create one more class. Okay, but if you're okay with this concept you can continue, because ultimately our goal is to get the data, which is done. Now let's quickly see how to create custom library. Okay, now when it comes to custom libraries, it is up to you how you want to enhance, what you want to enhance, but there are some very basic or mandatory, okay, or must have libraries which you should add in your framework. Without that it is like very difficult for you, okay, to achieve the maximum goal. So I will list few, okay, as of now I will list them, but in terms of coding part, let's see how many we can cover today. So already our package name is utility, so I will keep this class name as helper class. Okay, names you can keep whatever you like. So I will list down the library name. So one, we need capture screenshot, okay, one we need to handle frames, one we need to handle alerts. Okay, maybe we can go one by one, but I can keep a note here. To handle the screenshots, alerts, frames, multiple windows, a normal method which will sync, handle your sync issues, and we can also create some custom libraries for JavaScript executor, okay, and so on. I will keep on adding. For the time being, let's see how to capture the screenshots, and this is what exactly we are going to do. We are enhancing our library one more step, where it will capture the screenshot at runtime, once your test is done. So in order to capture the screenshot, we are going to use WebDriver reference, because this is what exactly will help us to capture screenshot. Now again, if you are new in Selenium and if you are not aware how to capture the screenshots, then again I have separate video on this. So what we are going to do, we have captured the screenshots. So we have a separate interface called takes a screenshot. which has one method called get a screenshot as. So we have captured the screenshot as a file, which will return as the object as file type. Okay, we will import this from java.io. Now we have to store this file or screenshot to a location, right? So for this we are going to use one class called file handler, where we have one method called copy, which will ask you from and to. So from, anyways we have src, right, because this is what our screenshot, and we want to copy to our screenshots folder. So what we'll do, I will refactor, copy this name, and this has to be in file format. So I will put dot operator, this folder name, and screenshot name, let me put login.png as of now. Now again, when you use this will throw you one checked exception called IO exception. So I am going to handle with TryCatch, and in case any exception comes, I am gonna print one custom message first, that unable to capture screenshot, and then we'll print the custom message which is coming from e object called e.getMessage. Now one small suggestion, if you wish, you can keep here all the method as static so that you can directly call them. If you don't want to keep static, again you can create object of helper class in the base class, and you can use that object to call these methods. As of now I will keep this as static so that whenever you need, you can capture the screenshot. So in order to show you this, I will go back to the test case, and I will capture the screenshot before closing the browser. So what I will do, I will say helper dot capture screenshot. Now consider a scenario, let's say if your test is failing here, definitely it is not going to run this. If your test case is done, it will go and definitely going to capture the screenshot, but if fails, it will not execute this line and this will not work at all. But my requirement is I need the screenshot either on failure or success or in both the situation. In that case, you can go to base class, and here you can again create one more method called public void teardown method, and this you can call after method. Guys, now you can see the importance of different annotations. We have used before suite, before class, after class. We are again going to use after suite as well, but after method is very helpful when you want to run certain piece of code after every test case. If we have 50 test cases and you want to run certain activity 50 times, keep inside the after method. This is what our task is. As soon as our execution is done, whether it's pass or fail, it should capture, compare. If fail, capture the screenshot. If pass, then whatever you want to take the call. You want to send email, you want to capture screenshot, you want to generate report, it is up to your requirement. In this scenario, I will take the screenshot on failure. Okay, so inside this we are going to use one interface called iTestResult. What exactly this interface will have, as soon as your test case will complete, this result variable will have all the information. So what we exactly are going to do, we'll check if result dot get status equal to iTestResult dot failure. Okay, runtime we are capturing the status. If the status is equal to failure, then capture the screenshot. Okay, and if you want to check what you can do, once the screenshot is done successfully, you can print a sysout message. This is again optional, guys, it is just for you for the time being that it is capturing the screenshot. Well, right, screenshot captured. Now this is called enhancement in a framework. As soon as test is done, if fails, capture the screenshot. Now this part, how it is coming, I already have a detailed video on this as well, which again I will put in the description, how to capture screenshot and failure, what exactly is this test result, how this after method works. Now purposefully I'm not going to fail my test. Okay, first I will go back, change this to a Chrome. This should run fine. Yes, it's happening properly, and it is going to log out the browser, and finally it is going to close it. This is what we want. Now let me purposefully fail this so that we can see it should capture the screenshot or not. So in order to fail the test case, what I will do, I will just remove this 6 from here and do the Control S. Okay, or maybe I will change this as well. Both I have changed. Now let me close this Excel and let me run the same test. This time it should capture the screenshot and it should store into this screenshot folder. Yes, you can see. Okay, now why it passed successfully? Because what we did, we just entered the username, password, and we do not have any verification that successfully logged in or not. So in this case, what happened, it actually did the steps, whatever data we entered, and it ran successfully. We need to add validation whether login is done or not. So no problem, what we will do, we'll purposefully going to change the locator so that it should fail this time. Let me change this username to username 1 and let's run the same test. Okay, this time you can see it is not entering the username, right? And now it is not failing because we have given implicit wait. It is waiting for some time period. Okay, if you go back to start application, we have given implicit wait of 30 seconds. So it is waiting till 30 seconds. Within this 30 seconds, if it comes, it will move to the next step. Otherwise, after 30 seconds, our test is going to fail. Okay, so let's wait. And it failed, and you can see screenshot captured. It failed the test, and exception says no such element exception. That's great. And let's refresh this, and we got one screenshot. See, beautiful. So this is how we enhance our base class. We'll keep on enhancing. Okay, once we move forward, we'll have a couple of more things to add. But now you can see our framework looks little professional. We have certain pages, some test cases, and few utilities. As of now, only one method which we have used. We'll enhance it further. Now if you come back to this particular helper library, you will notice one thing, that we have given a static name here, right? Now next time when my test fail, let's say next time another test case is failing, but it will still give the same name called login.png, and it will keep on overriding my previous screenshots, right? But we don't want this. We want to maintain the screenshots in case any analysis we need to, that why our script is failing. We need this screenshot and we need our old reports as well. So for this, we are going to create a new library which will give us the date time stamp in a proper format. Now if we use the current method which comes like get milliseconds, it will give you the time in milliseconds which you cannot read. Okay, you can read, but again you need some calculation. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a method called public Since we are going to return the time, so I will put the return type as a string, and I will say get current date time. So what exactly this will do, this will going to return us the date time in a standard format. Now if you just search for simple date format, okay, we have a separate class altogether which is simple date format, where you can see how many date formats we have. Okay, so just go through this inbuilt class in Java, which is very interesting, and these are the patterns which you can use. So I have already detailed post here, so I generally take this format. Okay, but if you want to change the date format, you can change. So let's create one object of date format. This is the parent class, and let's create object of simple date format, and the pattern which I will give is this. Now sometimes this slash and space not supported here, so I'm going to replace them with underscore. So this will be the format month, date, year, hours, minutes and seconds. Important note, this is capital MM, this is capital HH. Okay, now this will be the format, but how to capture the date? To capture the date, again we have a date class, and make sure you are taking the date from java.util, not from java.sql. So let's take the date. Once you create object, okay, your date will be ready, or you can say current date. Okay, now we got the date, we got the format. Now how to format them? Now let's call format dot format current date. Better we give some name, custom format. Custom format dot format is a method, and we are going to format the current date. So once you format, definitely it should return you the date, so that directly will return from here. So this method will return you current date time step in this format, which we are going to use here. Okay, so let's put double quotes here, plus plus. We are going to call this method. Since we are on the same class, I can directly call this, and I will say plus, and I will add dot png. Okay, okay, it says it's not static. Yes, we forgot to add static. So if it is static method, directly you can add here. So what it will do, it will take the current date time stamp, and then it will test .png. But still, if you want to give some name, so you can give your project name. For the time being, my project name is free CRM. So this will be the standard for all the screenshots. Okay, this will keep on changing. Now if you want to check this as well, just run the same test. Again it is going to fail, and this time screenshot will come in a proper format. Now it is going to take again 30 seconds, because we have given implicit wait of 30 seconds. In the meanwhile, we can also discuss. Now one important point which I want to mention, that we are creating libraries. We have created browser factory, we created this now, and directly we are integrating with our framework, right? But if you ask me the standard approach, either it's a development or testing, you need to test your libraries as well, which is called unit testing. So we are still missing the unit testing of our framework. This is what we are doing. We are just writing the code, integrating, and let's say after integration, if something is failing, you cannot identify. You can identify, but you need to struggle a lot. You need to trace back where exactly it failed. But if you do the unit testing of browser factory, then you will be confident enough that yes, browser factory is working fine independently. It means this does not have an issue. Config data provider is working fine. This does not have an issue. So at least you will be clear with the components which are working fine. Only with the new modules you need to verify. So in the next video, we'll see how to create unit test cases for the library. So in future something went wrong, then how you can debug easily. Okay, so that unit testing is missing for our framework, but again, best practice is we should have some unit test cases, but if you don't have, it's okay, but ideally you should have. Okay, so in the next video we'll see how to create unit test cases for our framework so that it will be easy for us in case any changes or in case our framework fails. Now you can see it failed our test. If I refresh the project, I got this. So you can see the date, it is first month, okay, which is Jan 23rd 2019. This is time 8 p.m. 44 minutes and 29 seconds. Again, you can see one space is missing, that we can fix it. It is just how you want to format. So I will put one underscore. Okay, that's up guys for this video. In the next video we'll create some unit test cases, and again we'll enhance this framework. So we'll create more libraries, builds, test suite, and many more. Okay, so that's all I have for this video. If you like this video guys, please share with your friends, subscribe to my channel, because we are going to upload many videos on the test automation in 2019. Okay, and if you still have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. You can also send me as email. My email ID is mukeshotwani@learn-automation.com. That's all guys, have a nice day, bye bye.